Great. Well, welcome everyone to Scale Your Visual Content Strategy with 3D and AI. I'm Ashley Crowder, the co-founder and CEO of VNTANA. I've been working in the 3D space for a long time now. And it's just really exciting, the explosion that's happening with the ability to use various technology powered by different machine learning and AI. And I'm very excited today to have our partners from Covision Media. So Franz is the CEO of Covision Media, and Burkhard is the CTO. So welcome, guys. It's great to have you on.
Thank you, Ashley. Thanks for having us and nice to meet everyone.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
so why don't I'll pass it to you guys to do an intro and just brief about Covision for those who are new to your company.
Yeah, it's very simple. We are at the core computer vision, computer graphics, machine learning company. If you look at our team, we're based out of the north of Italy, but also in New York, and we produce machines that are called 3D scanners, where you place an object inside, press a button, and the 3D model at the end of the day comes out of it. And these machines are typically 2 by 2 by 2 meters. Now, maybe Burke can translate this into inches for our American crowd. But that's what we do, and we work with some of the largest brands, retailers, and content producers in the world. And we have been around for 2, 3 years now. And yeah, we love the partnership with Ventana. And I think great things ahead. You mentioned the explosion. I think that's exactly true.
yeah.
Great.
By the way, the conversion is in feet and not in inches, Franz,
True.
because it's too big then. No, it's 7 feet side length. And maybe one key aspect here is about producing scanners that are fully automated, right? That's the key, because otherwise you cannot scale the content creation. And this is, I think, where we excel.
Exactly. So I know, a lot of people joining this webinar, it's the ask for content is exponential across the business. And so, you've built this reputation for high quality automated 3D scanning. Talk to us a little bit about how that works. And I can even explain a bit too. We work a lot with a lot of joint clients, and I'm happy to share my screen so we have some visuals. Um, but this is a Covision Ventana account, so your amazing scans get uploaded, um, and then we can instantly compress, convert to the specs you need, and publish out. But I did want to bring up this awesome Easter bunny, because for those who don't know 3D scanning is an amazing way to automate, quickly get 3D content, but it traditionally has a lot of limitations around shininess and see-through materials. But that's one of the amazing things that Covision has really figured out. So Burkhard, talk to me about this Easter bunny.
Yeah, sure, we'll do that. So, the Easter Bunny, yeah, the main challenge here is like you put it is how shiny it is, and traditional photogrammetry approaches here are limited because they cannot capture the shininess, right? And the key here is to use AI technology on top together with controlled lighting. That's what we are doing. The light helps you make sense of the surface, right? And also to make sense of the material. And when this is then combined with AI, you can reconstruct shiny surfaces like this. But also another challenge is, of course, because when you look at it, where's typically the most time spent in photogrammetry approaches, it's where it's those manual processes of creating the materials, but also of putting the individual scans together, because this is a 360 scan, right? And the only way you can do this is by combining multiple scans together, and that's what we're doing in our scanner, right? You see it from the bottom, top, all sides, and this is only possible as well if you have a AI algorithms merging those individual scans together.
Right. Very cool. Yeah, the quality you all get is incredible. And we always talk about when you're setting up your content pipeline for success, you definitely want to get that highest quality 3D model for that original. And then you can always create the optimized derivatives for everywhere you need to go, but you always have that high-end version. And then you of course can create whatever 2D content, images, videos you want from here, whether on Ventana or I not sure if you guys have started looking into doing that for people or if most people are using that for with us still.
Yeah, maybe to comment here. I mean, we have the plugin with you guys, and I think it works great just on downsizing our highest quality 8K 3D model. That, you know, if you look at companies and how they're using 3D models, everyone thinks that maybe e-com and integrating this into a web player, and then on mobile or on desktop, you can zoom in, zoom out, and make a more informed decision when you buy online, whether it's an Easter bunny, ironically, or a shoe, or a toy, or tool, or a bag. But it's much more than that, right? So for many organizations now, it becomes interesting. And also, it's part of making this economically viable at large to use a 3D of the highest quality. And ideally for us, of course, you start with a 3D scan, but also you can build it by hand, for instance. But a scan can capture some details that maybe by hand you cannot even build. And then from that, you start and declinate all the content that you need, also in more traditional formats, let's say like 2D or video. You start embedding it in virtual context, and it makes big use of that initial scan, and you make it viable, and you can disrupt step by step many processes and make them more efficient within your company. And I think that is what led a bit to this explosion. We are here to solve one bottleneck. Like I think you guys on Ventana side, you solve another big bottleneck is just, you know, where do then tens of thousands of assets live, and how you optimize them, and how you can use them across platforms. So I think it's many things coming together right now.
Right. And for the 3D scanning and your high quality scans, what are the ideal product types? Because, you know, obviously there's a building's not going to work. You're going to have to use a different scanning approach for that. So from this like automated scanning approach, what are the industries and products that work best?
Yeah, I mean, you put it correctly. It needs to, first of all, it needs to fit into our scanners, right? So because we are like how do you call it, object-centric scanning from the outside to the inside. And so that is for us the key limitation. Then there are certain aspects of assets that make it more challenging. Like for example, when an object is deformable, like clothing or bags, right? That's very challenging. That's something that we've solved with a combined software hardware solution in our second generation scanner. But there are also other aspects like extreme mirror-like reflectivity. Now the Easter bunny is still reasonable, right, in terms of reflections, but you could imagine a mirror or like anything that is coated. And then naturally also transparencies, right? And I think transparencies are an important topic also for product displays, because many products have transparencies, and this is where certain AI technologies can help.
That's great. That's helpful. And with your AI software, I mean, do you all see applying that to other people's scans? I mean, because your company, it is software combined with hardware, or is that something very future down the road?
So
Yeah, I mean,
so uh,
yeah, work you
let
go.
me take that first, and then you can talk about the future, Franz. So at the moment, it's really a combined solution, software plus hardware, because we are leveraging all the knowledge that we have about the hardware to give the clients the optimal outputs. Now, if we didn't know all this about the hardware, it would be difficult to reach that kind of quality. In the future, yes, maybe it would be possible, like to then declinate a pure software product.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, just to add here, there's many requests on that. For now, we're focusing, of course, on one thing only, and that is making the best 3D scanners in the world that solves most objects that, as you mentioned, fit from a size perspective into the scanner. So we couldn't scan a building or a car or whatever. And I mean, just to be clear, there's also great 3D artists out there that then take on our models, and maybe they put in the last 5% and just with their skills. I think that is why many organizations right now, at least what we see, they're reusing their workforce, so to speak. I mean, there were 3D teams being built to build products from scratch in 3D. Part of them still are much needed to do exactly this, but we're seeing now with our customers that they're leveraging exactly that talent to then at scale get the 3D scans, customer facing ready. And I think that is a mini revolution that we're seeing within the companies.
That's great. And you mentioned at scale, like a challenge we constantly hear from organizations is time and cost to create content, whether it's 3D and then 2D. So from your perspective, how are organizations setting themselves up for success to do this at scale?
I mean, it's first of all, I mean, there's different organizations, different cultures of approaching, let's say, innovative, disruptive projects. I mean, we work the fastest and the best with companies that already know what the pain points are, so they have left the exploratory phase behind it, and they basically know what our 3D scanners or VNTANA as a platform, for instance, bring to the table to help them solve it. And they have top management buy-in because, of course, all of this combined makes a really structural, important change to some of the departments within companies. So top management buy-in is always very important. And of course, we help also those companies who just make their first steps also to onboard them. So we always give away scans for free. Lots of companies come visit our scanning centers that now we're building across the globe, in the US, in Paris, in Italy, wherever we go. We'll be close to the customers just to give them a way to make the first steps by themselves, to have 1, 2 champions, of course, that know 3D by heart. I think that is key. And luckily, many companies that we work with, as I said, have those resources in house, and this is how then the puzzle comes together to build the baseline. There's different approaches. Many go with kind of the scans first, and then they figure out, oh, now we have a problem in managing all that data. Maybe there's other customers who go with somebody like VNTANA first, build the infrastructure. They have a clear idea already, and then they put in the scans and then go live with everything. But of course, depends on the use cases as well. Now we're mainly looking at this in the discussion, at least, and from our experience with a bit of an e-com brand, retail, content production lens. There's also the industrial, video gaming, so many other industries that might approach things differently. And maybe there, actually, you have a bit more experience and can share a bit, yeah,
Yeah.
your.
Yeah, it is interesting. So because we take scans as well as all types of CAD design data, like you name it, the kitchen sink, we'll take it and convert it. Um, and so what we see a lot with people starting to scale is you need those champions, but that business use case. And so where we usually see it initiating is, in construction and industrial engineering, it tends to be design reviews. If you can speed up design reviews by taking these massive Siemens NX, SolidWorks, you name it, files and instantly make them visual on a web player so non-technical stakeholders can view and see, and you reduce your design reviews by an hour per week, huge value to the company.
Yeah.
And then even for fashion, I know, we've been talking about like shoes and bags. All of our clients, their first real value to the company seems to be increased speed to market to wholesale. So if you're designing a new product, whether it's a shoe or a speaker, um, creating a physical prototype is extremely time intensive and costly. And then you just have one prototype and you might have offices around the world. So, we've had clients be able to quickly get 3D to a web-based visual presentation, speed up their time to that B2B sale by 4 months, which is extremely significant. And in fashion, this client, they had a 70% increase in buyer commit compared to the year before with 2D sketches only, right? Because 3D just gives a buyer such a better understanding of that product. So in that B2B use case, we see a huge amount. And that's really, if you can start there with a deadline and a presentation, prove value to the business, then the 3D team tends to get more budget because otherwise 3D tends to be a cost center in the enterprise, right? Until you prove that value. And then, of course, for the consumer good companies, e-com is proven to help increase conversion, and automating that content is huge. Um, you know, I think you guys might have a better understanding of this, but even, if you're creating a 3D scan, what's great is you can automate all the product images as well from that 3D file. Something, we've done in VNTANA is help automate those pipelines so you can plug in renders or different tools to do that. Um, but how are you seeing, because there is like a real cost savings there. I mean, traditional photography compared to automating with a 3D scan, is that something that you talk about with your clients a lot?
But, absolutely. I think it's for some of the largest retailers in the world that now we're working with, the main driver of the decision. The beautiful aspect about 3D within organization is that you have most of the times a combination between, let's say, cost saving and value creation at the same time. So you save cost in producing multiple contents from, let's say, starting from a 3D scan, but you can also increase conversion rates, reduce bounce rates from PDP, reduce return rates, and so on. And all of a sudden, it starts to make sense. Of course, a company, or let's say our customers, they need to be wired that way. Many of the very large companies, there's, sometimes silo thinking and silos exist. So maybe the departments don't even talk together. So you need to start somewhere and then just always show the great results that you can deliver with actually 3D. And of course, the master use case is, let's say, as you mentioned before, you integrate perhaps some of the scanners in the product development and product design phase to have teams collaborate globally on actually high quality assets before they actually being shipped around across the globe, just for people to make decisions at some point in the design phase. And then you take that 3D scan, you integrate it into B2B sales workflows, and you save, as you mentioned, 4 months in basically time to market, and you go to market with a higher quality asset as well. And then you leverage that also for the end consumer on your product detail page. I think then everything comes full circle, and basically the cost that is spent on dams or on the 3D asset creation in the first place, and the teams that come with it, is then basically a drop in the ocean for the benefit that it creates. But of course, you need to be a visionary company. Teams need to be working together, and we can facilitate that as well based on experience and hopefully the good results that are being shown. So, as I said, it is very exciting overall, right? Just to see this.
And are there any specific case studies that you can share, or share more about like industries that are adopting these tools faster than others?
I mean, we historically come from, working with brands and content creation studios like Nureg, Adidas. Now we have a big content creator in Paris called CLX Europe. Work with some of the high-end luxury brands. So we have exactly what we discussed before. We see this now happening at scale. What is an absolute game changer is that also industrial giants, like you mentioned them before, the Bosches of this world, they also have a need to digitize their existing products that often already exist as CAD models, that, of course, serve the purpose of producing that part on a factory somewhere in the world, but maybe doesn't serve the need of using that file to kind of produce content globally, whether it's a fair where you want to show off a very freaky, exciting video of your product and how it fits maybe a wider range of products, to have also B2B sales cycles reinformed with a 3D or strengthened with 3D, to then also use it for various declination in marketing and sales and online sales. So this is what we're seeing. And of course, we're seeing also step by step the video gaming sector coming to us, because of course, producing AAA video games is super expensive. And it's based on 3D natively. It's a bit more complicated there. Maybe Burkhard can share his opinion there too. But at the end of the day, highest quality 3D assets are needed across the globe in so many industries. And we didn't even mention, for us, the fourth pillar is, and here we work lots with, for instance, Meta, is to produce 3D data sets to then train generative AI models on those data sets to then produce 3Ds automatically through AI. That's a bit further out there. It comes from the research side of things, and some companies are doing it brilliantly already, and it's like kind of a wow effect. But of course, AI is always you always need to see like how end to end does it work. The last 20% is what counts, and so this is what we're seeing happening as well, but a bit more in the future maybe.
Yeah. Well, let's get to that. And Burkhard, I do want to understand how you are creating content for video games because yes, AAA games extremely expensive. And when we speak with a lot of our industrial clients, they're creating various training experiences in XR, which many have this expectation of it looking like a AAA game, right? Because that's what we're used to seeing. But the cost of creating an XR training experience that matches the quality of a AAA game is crazy. So would love to hear how you're helping reduce the cost of that type of content creation.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I mean, the cost for sure is huge, like in creating all these assets, because just the amount of assets that are typically there in the video games are huge, and basically the pain points are the same, right? You can start from a scan, and then you need to create the game ready asset, right, which has certain requirements. Those requirements are a bit different, by the way, than compared to e-com. E-com is always quality like first, right? And then of course you need to get it web ready, and you can do this with tools like, I mean, using the VNTANA platform. For gaming, it's a bit different. Every game has slightly different requirements, needs different maps. So you need to be able to, uh, convert between all these different formats, right? That's important. And yeah, I mean, what certainly is also a different thing is, just the trademark topic, right? So if you're scanning for e-commerce, right, and then you're scanning products, and they own the product, so they own the rights on the product. If you're scanning for gaming, cannot just put in the game like a product that is out there, right? So these are the discussions that we are having. Now this goes a bit beyond the webinar topic here, but here is where scanning can help for sure, because you can scan assets and maybe modify them and may take it as a baseline, and then build this huge data set from which you can then generate your generic objects that are then suitable for gaming.
Yeah, which is great, which leads back into training AI. So, and that's something Ventana has started to getting pulled into too, since we, our content management system through our optimization and model ops infrastructure, we can take thousands of year scans, parse the data, standardize the data to then feed into a machine learning model to train it on 3D. So, would love to hear just some of the challenges you guys have seen when training these ML models, what you're, and I'd love to hear when you think it's going to be good enough. Because you're right, like I've tested a number of, text to 3D or image to 3D AI creation, and it's 80 or 90% of the way there, but that last 10 to 20%, like it's not, it's the uncanny valley. It's like the shoe looks like a cloud is what one of my clients said. I was like, yeah, it looks like a marshmallow. It doesn't, it's not real. So Franz and or Burkhard, what are you seeing and the timeline for this to get really good?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest challenges here are the edge cases on the material side. So it's which is typically very shiny stuff, right? And like if you want to scan diamonds, if you want to scan like I don't know, watches. So we get people asking us, okay, can you scan watches? And can this go online straight from the scanner? And I mean, we have to be honest there. Yes, you can scan a watch, and it's likely going to be the best baseline that you can get for anything that goes beyond that, but it's not going to be ready, right? And so training the AI models for these kind of things is just like naturally limitation, because uh, like the human is really good at identifying these kind of materials, because he's seen the like the human has seen them like all of his lifetime. I don't know, in my case, almost 40 years. And And so you learn how to distinguish that, right? And that is a big challenge which can be solved with data, right? Just gathering the amount of data that you need to solve this. But then it's just also, like how to get to that data, how to use it, building the infrastructure to utilize it, and so on. So that I would say is the biggest challenge.
Yeah. And if I may add, just to add on also what you mentioned, Ashley, I think if one looks at it, taking a few steps back and says, okay, 3D as an asset class compared to, let's say, text and the revolution we're seeing there with, ChatGPT and so on. And on the image side, of course, with all the tools that are out there, or on the video side as well, with like Sora and Google dropping this and Meta dropping that. Like it's incredible to witness. But of course, there's always, of course, fantastic engineers behind it, lots of funding, lots of compute power. We don't even need to discuss it. It's fantastic what is going on from a technology perspective. But also, to be honest, they had like the broadest data sets ever to train on that were built with the internet revolution of the last 15, 20 years, right? In 3D, it's not that publicly available. You have the Objaverse, for instance, that is out there that you can just, pull and do some training on. But of course, AI is only as good as the quality of the data set and the diversity of the data set and the vastness of the data set. And in 3D, it's just not existing. Maybe if you take all the 3Ds that exist right now in the world from other different companies together, then maybe you have a good baseline, but nobody's willing to share them anyway for some random AI training. So what we believe the future is going to look like, and maybe this is 2-3 years out, is there will be, I guess, some of the big guys, the big tech companies, maybe pulling off some general purpose kind of 3D, generative 3D model, but we'll need companies like you and us to actually fine tune them to the specific use cases that are within the companies, because let's be frank, like we are B2B companies, and there needs to be a benefit for the brands. And another aspect, speaking of generative AI, which creates something new based on everything that it learned. Lots of our customers, they don't want AI to hallucinate anything. Like we are creating the digital twin of their product with all its imperfections. And there's a specific reason they want to do so, because these companies, they've been building the most beautiful products in the world for the past 100 years almost in some cases. That is their company, like Nike or Adidas or whoever, whichever, even a Bosch, like the products that they make, that is their reason for existence. And it's highest quality. The processes are engineered to do so. And you don't want AI to hallucinate any parts that maybe don't exist on this thing. So this is what we're hearing, and it will take a few years to get.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the volume of content needed to train an AI, and then also to your point, I mean, you and I even go this my own team. I'm like, yes, you can use AI to come up with a baseline, but you need to edit it. Like, don't just send me something AI spit out. It is not going to be good enough. Whether it's text, it doesn't matter what it is. But it's definitely helping us get there a lot faster. That's true. And with that, whether it's with training AI or your scans, I mean, Burkhard, what's the biggest engineering challenge you've come across with this, and how has it been solved, or even how are you trying to solve it?
Yeah. I mean, maybe first to the point of you need to be able to edit it, because I think this is very key here, right? And then I'm answering the second one, right? So um, this is why we think like the industry wants to work with a 3D asset, right? They don't want to have just some imagery or whatnot that they cannot control, right? And this is also why we are producing meshes plus PBR, and it's also why I believe you guys are building a platform that is that is suited or is tailored towards classical 3D assets that can be declinated into all of the use cases. To the topic of the most, let's say, complex engineering challenges, I would say it's the ability to scale deformable objects. I would say was the biggest challenge that we have faced. Why? Because it required a system-wide approach to solve this. So I mean, the first challenge is how do you even put a deformable item into a scanner and you get like you can put cameras all around, right? So that's difficult, because typically you would need a platform somewhere to place it. And then if you put a platform, then it looks unnatural. If you take an example of a bag, So just having the hardware ready to be able to place it, then you need something to hold it up, right? Then automatically removing that from the 3D model, and this is where AI comes into play. So you detect it, remove it automatically from the 3D scan. But then you have holes, right? You have holes in your model where maybe a holder was, where maybe a fishing line was to hold it up, right? And those need to be filled in, right? And this is where then generative AI comes into place. So completing the shape based on previous knowledge, on previous data, and completing the textures from previous data. This was a big challenge for us. We started this, now correct me if I'm wrong, Franz, like 1.5 years ago. We built this, and it was super fast, like how we came to the first prototype. But there were so many obstacles on the road, like on getting this done. So if I say like what was the most complex one, that definitely would be it. And now we can say, I mean, we've cracked it. Now, of course, we can always further improve, right? So you're never done with it, but we're happy with the outcome.
Awesome. That's great. And, to both of you, like what innovations are you most excited about in AI-driven 3D for the next like 12 to 18 months? What we're going to actually see and be able to take advantage of?
Yeah, maybe to take a first crack at it. So Burkhard mentioned the limitations, right, which we try to solve, of course, with brute force hardware, classical computer vision, machine learning, now increasingly more AI. As AI becomes more powerful, more usable, research is getting better into the market. Like we can just use some of these tools that are out there and available, or these pieces of code. Also, of course, frankly, developing it in-house to deal with those edge cases better. So I think that is what we will see in the next 12 to 18 months. And what is exciting overall then also in 3D, and this is in part and also pushed by the same AI that is needed to crack transparencies, reflections, and so on, is just to decrease 3D asset generation time by another factor 2 and 4. This is maybe interesting piece of information. When we started scanning with Adidas and Nurek, for instance, this is now October 2022. The scanning times were 45 minutes, right? Of course, these were the visionaries, and they, in the beginning didn't care too much. There was, of course, a way to get this down. Now we're at 10 to 14 minutes. And by end of the year, we will be between 5 and 8 minutes on some products and some of the scanners. And we'll just see that go down drastically by having the same or higher quality. And of course, then you can do 1+1, and it becomes more affordable for many companies to do so and start scanning and creating 3D assets for all their products. And I think that is where we want to get at. We're just very close. This is what I think we will see in the next 12 to 15 months, now translated, of course, into our very own niche of what the vast 3D world is. Maybe Burkhard, you can add some AI facts there too. What you're excited about in the next? I mean, we're excited about
Yeah,
other things,
sure.
right? But yeah.
I mean the scanning time and just simplicity of the scanning, that's for sure where AI can play a big role, right? So you have all those diffusion models out there which give you an idea on this is how an image can look, this is how an object can look, and it helps you much more than even scanning with more cameras and so on. So the AI can enable to drastically reduce the costs on both the machinery but also the scanning time. So this is what I'm excited about for sure. But beyond that, also it can be used to enrich the scans with additional information like semantics. So I don't know, this is a black leather material, this is a green plastic, like on a material level, but even on a semantic level, like this is a handle of of a bag or something. And this then can enable again different use cases going towards design processes, but also maybe be the baseline for then training robots, right, on objects, because they typically need more more semantic information on top of the visual information.
Yeah, I know. I have a podcast connected in 3D. I had a product of NVIDIA on, and how they've created these data sets in a virtual world omniverse to virtually train robots in a non-real world or in 3D to then let them out in like the real Amazon warehouse, which is like wild. It's crazy we're here. And then, from my side, I think with AI, I'm really excited with all the industrial clients we work with the CAD files, being able to automate the textures is coming. And I think that is going to be so big and exciting. And I think it's going to be, the scanning is essential to that to be able to have all this huge data set of real world um, materials. And so great. And I know we've had a question for a while, so we've got about like 10 minutes left. Bjorn, do you have a question? I'll let you talk if you want to unmute, or people can type them in the chat and I can let
So
them.
Franz and me are smiling because I think we know who it is. Hey, Björn.
Well, he's still on mute, so um,
I
there you
think
go.
now you're unmuted, Björn.
Not sure.
Okay, maybe Björn just text us or text in the commentary section and we can pick it up from there.
Yeah, if anyone has questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. Oh, I think he put his hand down. Maybe that was a mistake. Well, great. Well, I'll ask one last question while we wait. So for teams just getting started out with 3D and AI, what's your advice for, how do you take that first step without getting overwhelmed by tech and cost?
I mean, that's a great question actually, and perfect for this webinar. So I think just taking it step by step, right? I mean, there's no such thing as having it completely figured out, and don't need to be perfect when you go live or when you do something. So start small, maybe get the first 3D assets from your teams in a big company. They might be around already, just to play around with them, use the different tools to display them. And on the other hand, maybe ask company like us to get a few 3D scans in and just compare them, talk to experts. I would say, I think Ashley, you're reachable, Burk surely as well. Like just reach out and ask for a half an hour call to figure out what the hell is going on, right? And then start step by step building the requirements that are needed for a specific use case. I think 3D at this point is really not something new anymore. All of the variables, all of the costs, the details are all there, and then you can make your business case internally. We're happy to support you in that as well, based on the experience. And then it's time to get basically the approval from those who are able to make decisions in the company, because again, it's important to have that to go forward and build this over the long run. So I would say it's a marathon, not a sprint. And taking it step by step is probably the right approach to 3D.
I agree. And then, yeah, it looks like we are getting chat questions now. So, is there a way to optimize CAD models using AI, or do you see that is going to happen anytime soon? So, Emmanuel, yes. So that's actually like exactly what VNTANA is built to do. So we wrote intelligent optimization algorithms so you can upload any 3D file, whether it's a scan, CAD, you name it, set parameters of where you want to go, polygon limits, file size, and our algorithm will automatically create those derivatives for you. Um, and then we are built to be able to plug in new AI tools easily. So we did partner with Loci.ai, for example, can easily plug into the back end of VNTANA. That AI can see a 3D model, tell you what it is, and auto tag it. So there's a lot of things you can do, which is exciting. Um, so hopefully that answered the question. And then Stanley, um, hi, great information today. Thank you. How close might we be to scanning a human being so that a virtual 3D hologram can pop up in your living room and allow me to speak to my great grandchildren? Uh, I don't know. I'm going to pass that to the scanning team here.
Franz, do you want to take that or should I?
I mean, I just say one thing. So when we started the company, we want to do people scanning as well at the same time, product and people scanning, not with the same scanners, with two different sets. We then dropped the people scan just because it's way more difficult, and even if you get it right, it's still sometimes a bit off from what you would expect a highest quality, perfect 3D model to look like, and then it becomes economically crazy to perfect that to be just used across the board. But here, I think if you look at the movie industry and so on, like lots of great work has been done over the past couple of years. So I would say this is already happening somehow. Depends how you then perceive that 3D avatar and how you like it, and if it's according to your definition of reality. But quantum steps were made forward, I think, in the last years. I don't know, Burkhard, maybe you want to add to that as well.
Yeah, I mean, scanning an entire human, I think that is very difficult. I think there are some solutions out there for scanning just your face. Why is this more easy? Because there's so much data of faces floating in the internet, so it's more easy to train a model there. Also, companies doing that based on phone apps. Question there is when are you at that point where you're not in that uncanny valley effect that you mentioned earlier, Ashley? So the quality is so high that doesn't look like a cartoon figure, right? So that's always the question. And yes, you're right, Franz. I mean, we decided to not be in the human scanning business for a reason. It's just vastly more complex, and quite frankly, even the competition is higher, right? Because like there are other companies trying to crack this for different reasons, and scanning products was a good place to be.
Great. Well, I think that's all the questions. Thank you all. If you want to ask us anything later, I think we're all available on LinkedIn, so you can find us there or reach out to Covision Media or VNTANA. So thank you, everyone, and this will be online later if you had to drop early. Thanks, Franz. Thanks, Burkhard. This is great.
Thank you. Thanks, Ashley.